everyone! Welcome back to my live writing test series where I write a brand new essay in response to this week's latest IELTS Task 2 question. Alright, let's go! Some people say that with the new technology, there's no need to develop handwriting skills anymore. Others believe that it is still necessary to teach handwriting. Discuss both these views and give your own opinion. Alright, so what you have to do is, we have looked at a question type like this before. Of course, not the same theme, but the same type, which is a discussion essay. So when you have a discussion essay, make sure that you're making your opinion clear. We see a lot of students being kind of unsure about exactly what their opinion is in the first place. So you've got to ensure that your opinion is crystal clear. Okay, you can't take any risks with that. Let me just see if this is broadcasting fine. Okay, looks good. Right, just checking a couple of things. Let me know if there is a problem with my screen or not. Okay, you can see that. Hey, there's two people here. Pop in and say hi. Okay, looks good. Yeah, if you're watching this live, you'll want to. Hi, Pia, how are you? Good to see you here. Okay, so let me just get this set straight. There we go. All right, so the first thing I want to do is figure out what it is that I support. This is kind of confusing. I mean, it could really go either way. I think both are fine. I could, theoretically even just support handwriting skills, since I do think they are important, but at the same time, maybe I would be able to. Let's see, this is kind of, I'm equally split between the two, but I know I have to pick one, right? Because you do have to pick one. Make sure that you're not just, trying to balance both views. That's another mistake I keep talking about. So that's something you really, really want to avoid. Oh, hi, Sania. Good to see you here. Um, is anyone else seeing the text is a bit blurry? Just let me know if that's the case so I can fix it. Yep, okay, great. All right, so I'll continue. I think I'm just going to go with there is no need to develop handwriting skills, but who knows? Let's see. Because I can kind of change my mind midway between essays, which is okay. If you're doing a computer-based test, it's really easy to just, copy paste your ideas and reverse them. It is fairly easy to also change a couple of things, but remember that your introduction has your opinion, so you can't take any risks with that. All right, you've got to be super careful with that. So the first thing I'm going to mention here, maybe I'll just get started with my main ideas as usual. So we have body paragraph 1. What's my main idea going to be? Some people say that with new technology there's no need to develop handwriting skills anymore. I could perhaps say that these might seem outdated, but it depends on what my opinion is. Again, I'm not entirely convinced which side is, best. I'm not sure if this is really something that I can, because I feel like I could develop both, sides. I mean, I could support both sides, but then, this is a very good question. Good questions make you think, and you might think, well, that's complicated or, complex. That's not really the case. That's part of the fun of essay writing. You could really, take any kind of path. But the good thing to know is that your opinion is not being judged, so you don't really need to worry about what you're writing. I would say the only thing to be concerned about is the quality of your writing. So your actual opinion, it doesn't really matter, not as much as you think. A lot of people are afraid that they're going to be judged for their opinions, but that's not true at all. So I'm just gonna, without the stress of this opinion and that opinion, I think I'll just write down the main ideas and see where it goes. Let's see. Others believe that it's still necessary to teach handwriting. I could possibly support handwriting as well, but let's face it, I haven't handwritten anything in a long time, so But then what if, you have a situation where you don't have access to electronics and you need to handwrite things? You still need to learn, right? I think it is overall pretty important. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go with that. And what I recommend is when you write your main idea sentences, try and write a simple sentence. And by simple, again, I'm just referring to the grammatical term simple, meaning that you have one subject, one verb, and one object. That's often the best way. And what we normally do is we have one simple sentence, that's your main idea sentence. Then we have a few. I'm not going to tell the number because that's for my students only. But we have a couple of complex sentences, and we also have at the very end a different sentence type. You probably have noticed this already. Okay, so with the advent of technology, handwriting skills may seem obsolete. Good word. Okay, so then you have your supporting ideas, and then I have body paragraph 2. I'm sorry, this might look confusing. I'm going to change that up. So I have 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and then we have the next one. Teach, okay. One needs to be able to express themselves. Well, oneself. Well, one sounds very outdated. It is technically correct when you say one instead of saying he or she. That's what I always recommend. Don't write he needs to, she needs to, because you're not writing about individual people. You're writing about people in general. So you can use one. It's very good, if a bit archaic. It's not very commonly used, but it is proper English. So you can use one and oneself. So one needs to be able to express oneself with ease, regardless of the medium of written communication. What if you find yourself someplace where there's no tech devices, there's no computers, there's no smartphones, tablets? For example, when you have to fill out forms by hand, right? Or when you're traveling somewhere and you have to fill things out by hand, or you have to write something, let's say it's an emergency, you've lost your luggage, you have to write to the airline or something, for example. What would you do? What if you've lost your laptop in there? What are you gonna do? Technically, you could potentially just, like find, a place, but you probably find it easier to just, handwrite something, right? Okay. So we'll continue here. One needs to be able to express oneself. Okay, I know I said you should write a simple sentence, and this has turned out to not be a simple sentence, but again, that's just my style of writing. I'm just here to give clues as to what you can do. I always recommend finding a good tutor who can kind of guide your writing, because you have your own style and you have to cultivate your style in accordance with the rigid IELTS ways of doing things. Okay, so everyone's mileage is going to be different. Okay, so one needs to be able to express oneself with ease regardless of the medium of written communication. Okay, that looks good. I'm going to get started with my supporting ideas. Why would handwriting skills seem old-fashioned and useless? Everybody has, well, almost everybody. Everybody has a, PC or phone at the very least. Well, okay, not everybody has a PC, but pretty much everybody has a phone. We pretty much grow up with phones nowadays. If you have like 3-year-old kids, 4-year-old kids, they get their first phones pretty early. At least they have access to tablets, if not phones, right? So they know how to navigate, they know how to type. It's basically a life skill at this point. Typing, and that brings me to another point. Typing is a life skill at this point. You cannot even get a job if you can't, operate the basics of a computer. Like we open it up and type a document, type an email, do this and that. We use it so often. We use it pretty much every day. Most people use it every day. Okay, not every single person. Maybe if you're a factory worker, you probably don't need to write any emails. But most people still do. Respond to emails, write messages online. Everything is online. You're not going to write a letter to your friend and post the letter and wait, like 2 to 3 business days for it to reach your friend, are you? Typing is life skill. We use it every day. And why else? One more point against... one more point to say that, okay, no need to develop handwriting skills. Why should people not have to develop handwriting skills anymore? Everybody has phones. We're used to phones. We're used to this technology. We're used to doing things a certain way. So it's ease of communication. Typing is used in all spheres of life for all kinds of people who have jobs as well. In fact, it's important. I mean, it is definitely important to know how to type, but that does kind of, people are of course going to assume that you know how to handwrite things as well, because that's a more basic form, that's a more basic life skill, right? Which of course that's why I've arranged my ideas in this way, that first I'm addressing the side I don't really support, and then I'm addressing the side that I do support. Okay, so typing is a life skill, we use it every day, and what else? Why else is typing superior to handwriting? It's easier, frankly, it's just easier. And I'm sure everybody who's attempted the IELTS at least once can attest to this, that most people vastly find the computer-based test much, much easier, just in terms of at least writing, because you type all the time. When was the last time you wrote a single paragraph on a piece of paper? Really think about that. So easier and less time consuming. Also, you have spell check and all that stuff that covers easier, right? And then I have the other side, express yourself with ease. This is a basic life skill. This is a basic skill everybody needs to have. Not all places have access to technology. For example, if you travel someplace remote, right? Or if you make, let's say you're in an emergency situation and you need to write to somebody, or let's say, I know, crazy situation, but let's say you're stuck on a desert island and you need to write the word help on the sand. What are you gonna do? Are you gonna, use your phone? Because you don't have a phone, you're stuck on a desert island, right? I know, crazy situation, but just again pointing out some ideas. So you need it. It's a life skill. You need it. You need it as much as you need to know, for example, that you need to wear shoes to go outside. You need to know how to write with a pen and paper, or pencil and paper. Yeah, rule layers don't have good technology. Exactly. So if you're somewhere remote, you can't always assume that, and there's many places, obviously, a device like a phone, laptop, tablet, whatever, you need electricity. Not all places have electricity, right? And handwriting is also, like, it's known to be a good way to learn things. You write it by hand, it's a physical activity, and it helps in retention. It helps with your, understanding things. So it's good for learning. It's important for learning, or you can say, a retention. There we go. There we go. That's it. And then I'm going to write my introduction. So my introduction is going to be, let me make sure I don't have the bold font in here. Okay, there we go. So what can I say? First, I'm going to write something about this whole idea of handwriting and technology. I've already used this. Okay, well, I can start some other way. I can say, since, it's interesting to note that almost all civilian technology has been military technology, as in it was used by the armed forces and defense and all that before it became commonplace. Like the internet used to be DARPA in the 1980s. Well, anyway, I don't know if I can include that here because that would be too much information. But you see how information that you already know can be weaved into your essay. That's why they're asking you to write an essay, because they want you to turn your thoughts, your ideas, your knowledge, your life experiences into words in the English language and form some nice sentences, give them some fresh content. The emphasis is on fresh content. A lot of people will just copy this question and write, a section of society possesses the belief that newfangled technological devices make it unnecessary to be able to write by hand. Please don't do that. Every time an examiner sees that, they roll their eyes. Not kidding. Okay, so since development and increased popularity, of personal, what do we call them? We used to call them back in the early 2000s, they used to be called personal digital assistants. Written communication or formal written communication plays a vital role irrespective of industry. Yeah, that's great, Pia. That's a brilliant idea. Perfect. That's another strong point in favor of writing. That, it's a very important skill, writing formally. But yeah, we could potentially also say that you can do the same, and by writing an email, but it's a very important skill. Like, people are going to look down on you if they think that, oh, this person can't write by hand. That's weird. At least, like right now, we're still in that stage where the digital parts of our life and the analog parts of our life are kind of, like, we're not a fully modern, you know, technologically advanced society. I mean, the world, at large, we're still like halfway between these two worlds, right? Maybe 150 years in the future, when there's not a single place in the world that has electricity and internet issues, maybe we'll become a more technologically, advanced society where we don't ever need to handwrite things. But that's a long way from now, in my estimation. So, what else am I gonna write here? Let's see. This is a very good question. Okay. Since the development and increased popularity, okay, I can say increase, sorry, affordability, accessibility. That's more important. What did I just say? Affordability and accessibility. Okay. Since the increased affordability and accessibility of digital, what do we call them? Again, digital, what are they called? They used to be called PDAs, personal digital assistants. That's right, okay. But I can just say digital devices. I like how it rhymes, like I mean, it alliterates affordability, accessibility, digital devices. Of course, you don't need to do that, but it's just interesting sometimes how the words come out. Okay, since the increased affordability and accessibility of digital devices, it has become very common. Increase, oh well, it's become common for people to type far more or type far often or type more often than they write by hand. There we go. That's a background statement, and then I'm going to show my opinion. Despite the fact that handwriting might initially seem to be on its way out. Well, that's a bit casual. I can't use way out. But you can say, for example, that it's becoming, I've already said obsolete. I don't want to repeat that. It's a nice word, but let's not overdo it. Despite the fact that handwriting might initially seem to be going the way of the dodo is another nice expression, but unfortunately it's too casual. Well, because you might not know, but the dodo is an extinct animal, so it's like saying, "Oh, this thing is old-fashioned." Despite, you can definitely use old-fashioned. You can say, despite the fact that handwriting might initially seem to be rather quaint, somewhat quaint, and perhaps even old-fashioned, it still remains an important part of our daily lives. It still remains and will continue to. Okay, now I have to fix this here. Despite the fact that handwriting might initially seem to be somewhat quaint, perhaps even old-fashioned, compared to typing. I know I've got a spelling error there. I'm just going to fix it. There we go. That's your introduction. Then we go on to our first body paragraph. Let's copy the main idea sentence. There we go. There we go. Why is the font different? Let me fix that. There we go. Oops. That looks good. Okay, so with the advent of technology, handwriting skills may seem obsolete. Or rather, you might say, an increased adoption Through increased adoption of typing, handwriting skills may seem obsolete. This is because, oh, sorry. This is because over the past, let's say, I would say ever since mid 2000s, more and more people are now having their own digital devices. They have their own like smartphones. Maybe 15 years ago, it was like a new thing, like oh, smartphones. But now every day, every phone is a smartphone, right? This is because over the past, let's say, decade, um, more and more people, we can say an increasing number of people have already said that, so more and more people have been able to procure their own smartphone or personal computer due to which typing skills have everybody knows how to type, right? So typing skills have typing has become very common practice. It's a part of our daily life pretty much. And then it is also pertinent to note that typing is now considered a life skill since we use it every day. Which also makes it an essential skill for the workplace. There we go. And then the last one. Additionally, or I can say actually more, but I think typing is much quicker, it's easier, it's less time consuming. Typing is largely considered to be much easier than handwriting. Than writing something out by hand, and is also seen as less time consuming, or you can say is also seen as efficient, considered to be much easier than writing, and also efficient. Okay, I'm gonna have to check here because this looks, don't you think this paragraph looks kind of small? Oh, that's because I haven't finished it yet. Moreover, typing is largely considered to be much easier than writing something by hand and also efficient since it takes less time to do so. There we go. And last sentence, plus, typing skills are, oh sorry, maybe seen as more valuable than handwriting skills. There we go. I'm still a bit suspicious about the word count on this thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to check real quick. Let's see. So I've got the word count here. Okay, that's 115. That's actually pretty good. I think that's a good sign that I'm starting to write more appropriately sized paragraphs. Okay, that's good. Then we'll do the next one. What's the next one? One needs to be able to express oneself with ease regardless of the medium of written communication. So the fact that, oh, handwriting is difficult, that's no excuse. It shouldn't be an excuse for anybody. So I think I'm going to change the font size here because this looks too small. Okay, there we go. Looks good. So you need to be able to express yourself with ease regardless of the medium of communication. The first idea is that it's a basic skill. Everybody needs to have it. In school, for example, you don't start by learning things on devices. Yeah, maybe the last 2 years things have been a bit different, but overall, you still start by learning your ABCs. You write them out by hand. You're still doing a lot of writing in school. and in, well, in university to some extent, although I think nowadays you pretty much just, but that's another thing. I mean, they're recognizing that typing is gaining importance, but it doesn't, like, unseat handwriting. Okay, so one needs to be able to express oneself with ease, regardless of the medium of spoken communication. Um, Most importantly, handwriting is an essential and basic life skill. Why am I writing skills? No, okay. Handwriting is an essential and basic life skill which everyone is presumed to have. Not being able to write could make other people think that one's education was insufficient. Maybe I'll change this point. I don't know. Basically, people are going to look down on you if you can't handwrite. Like, they think it's a sign of, like, illiteracy or something. One's education was not up to par. Let's say that. Maybe I'll change it. Maybe I won't. Up to par. And then, not all places have access to technology. Let's see. Which transition would be best in this case? Now, of course, I'm just kind of doing it in this, very spontaneous manner. You would, of course, do it in a more organized manner. My students would know. But this is just the way I write. Like, I don't want to use the same, because I'm not trying to write a Band 7 essay here, right? Otherwise, I would probably just follow the same step-by-step method I teach others, or a 7.5 or a Band 8 essay. We're trying to do the best we possibly can in these, 40 minutes, which of course always ends up being like 45 or 50 minutes. That's only because I'm reading the comments and trying to respond to these as well. But you've seen that I can do it in 30 minutes. So writing is not difficult. Writing is fun. A lot of people have the idea that it's a bore or that it's a chore, but it's really not. It's all in the mindset. And the more you do something, the better you get at it. That's always true. So the next thing is, not all places have access to tech. Okay, so I can say this is further proved by the fact that, well, I don't know. I'm going to have to change this one. I'm not very happy with this, so I'm going to change that later. This is further proved by the fact that not all places on the planet have access to technology or the infrastructure required to support it. Such as consistent electricity and internet connectivity, which makes the art of handwriting, I've already said skill so many times, I'm tired of the word by now. So, which makes handwriting all the more essential. I've already said, okay, let's change it up. There we go. I'm going to change this because I don't like it. So, handwriting is an essential and basic life skill which everyone is presumed to have. Schools all around the world still begin by teaching children to write their ABCs by hand. And they still will, even in the digital age. Sure, they teach kids how to use computers, but that's how you start. You start by handwriting. You learn how to, basically, you have to, before you can fly, just because you can fly doesn't mean you fly all the time. Because sometimes you still need to walk, and you need to learn to walk before you can fly, or run, whichever is the case, which makes handwriting all the more necessary. There we go. Now that works. Why is there a full stop here? There we go. I don't recommend using exclamation marks in your essays, but I have control over what I'm writing here, so I know this is appropriate. Otherwise, it might be an issue with tone. Here specifically, it's fine, but unless you've got a teacher going over your work with a fine-tooth comb or someone you're learning from, I don't recommend taking this specific risk. But again, this is just the way I write. Again, what you can get away with depends largely on your control of your text, right? It is very much possible to write a very high quality text within just 250, a high quality essay within just 250 words. A lot of people have this misconception that writing more is writing better, but it's not. When most people write more, they're just giving the examiner the opportunity to collect more of mistakes and errors. So don't do that. In fact, being able to write, to convey the same message in fewer words is a very high level skill. I could do it, but I just get carried away. Perhaps someday I will do it. Someday I'll set myself a challenge. Just write 255 words or something and do a whole essay. It would be good, but of course it would be a more time consuming thing because you have to show it and then you have to explain it. But it's a good challenge either way. Let's get started with my last idea, that handwriting is important for learning. I feel like maybe I could, if I'm going to talk about learning, I should probably put that idea in here, right? This is further proof by the fact that handwriting, yeah, I'm gonna put that in here. It's an essential life skill. Schools teach children to write their ABCs by hand. And I can say additionally, oh, yeah, I'm gonna have to change this. As I've shown you before, sometimes you might need to rearrange your ideas. I tell everyone to rearrange their ideas, but I don't do it myself. Okay. Well, yeah, the parallel self-confidence. Okay, so most importantly, handwriting is an essential and basic life skill which everyone is presumed to have. Schools all around the world still begin by teaching children to write their ABCs by hand. Let's see, I could probably say something like furthermore would be good. Maybe I want to use a more correlative conjunction. Not only is this skill widespread, but it is also important for learning purposes, since writing something out by hand has been shown to increase retention of that information and is useful in learning. Oh, I've already said that. Okay. What exactly was I going to say? It's like learning by doing. Handwriting is important. I've already said retention, haven't I? Increase retention. There we go. So no need to repeat the same thing over and over again. Don't be verbose. Don't be redundant. So not only is the skill widespread, but it's also important for learning purposes, since writing something out by hand has been shown to increase retention of that information. Memory? Can I write something about memory here? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it's not really necessary. This is further proved by the fact, okay, then this isn't really the right transition to use. Maybe I can use something like furthermore. Or maybe I can say, another factor to consider is that, I've already said that. Okay, not all places on the planet have access to tech or the infrastructure required to support it, which makes handwriting all the more necessary. And then, excuse me. Okay, and my last sentence is going to be something like, despite, despite all the hullabaloo around it, despite what naysayers think, very much important and popular. Okay, there we go. Why is this paragraph bigger? Uh-oh, we're gonna have to cut it short. So people need to be able to express themselves easily regardless. So I'm gonna say people People need to be able, people should be able, need to be able express themselves with ease. Oh, I should have a comma here, regardless of the medium of written communication. Okay, handwriting is an essential, or well, I think I've already said something like that. Life skill. Okay, I'm gonna have to change that over here because okay, so typing is now considered a life skill. Okay, maybe I can change it over here. Handwriting is an essential life skill. Or basic. Well, it's basic. It's foundational, right? It's a not only is a skill widespread, but it's also important for learning purposes. Since writing something out by hand has been shown to increase retention of information. Another factor of concern is that not all places on the planet, or not all regions around the globe, not all regions around the globe, that would still be the same, so it's not very useful, have access to technology. I have a pronoun over here, but what is this? Okay, the infrastructure required to support it, meaning the technology, right? You've got to check these things like, are your pronouns matching? You know, do your supporting ideas lend enough support to your main idea? Have to check. It's super important, absolutely vital. Okay. No, this is overly complex. Why have I written it this way? You can just, take this away. This handwriting is very much important and still popular. Or I can just say, therefore, handwriting remains, is unlikely. It's unlikely to, like go out of style. I mean, that's a casual term. Sorry. Handwriting is unlikely to be relegated to the history books anytime soon. Another okay, when you relegate something to the history books, that's another way of saying that it's an ancient thing that modern people no longer do. Yep, there you go. Now that looks much better. Okay, and the last thing we're going to do is we're going to write a conclusion. So in conclusion, and then we're going to go with it is evident that, or start with that. So it's evident that although typing has become an important skill due to the increase, due to how often we use electronic devices in daily life. Well, I've already said how often, so no need to really repeat the same thing, right? So although typing has become an important skill due to how often we use electronic devices, writing by hand will never stop being useful or common, since that is something that more people around the world do, right? Like I said, not everybody has access to smartphones, PCs, tablets, smart TVs, and stuff like that. But maybe I can rephrase this. I don't like the way this is headed, so I'm gonna change that. Writing by hand will never stop being useful or common, since it's one of the first skills that we learn. Maybe that's a bit too specific. Writing by hand will never stop being useful, since it has wider applicability or usefulness. But that's good enough. I'm going to give some kind of advice. If, let's say, if we were to, if society were to, stop handwriting altogether, what do you think might happen? I don't think. Maybe I can say that if we truly wish to, well, I mean, why would you wish to erase handwriting? That doesn't make any sense. If society were to stop handwriting altogether, the art, or society were to, stop the art of handwriting altogether, it It could very well mean the end of, I don't know, I don't want to say something over dramatic like the end of civilization. Maybe something else. It could very well mean the end of, hmm, old-fashioned communication, I guess. Well, I don't want to say old-fashioned because, it's often considered to be a pejorative term. Right? It's negative, right? So instead of that, what can we write in here? I'm kind of like thinking, what do I do? If society were to stop the art of handwriting, or maybe we could say, um, hmm, I mean, if an idea doesn't work, then you can just, get rid of it. You don't have to stick with it. It's not okay. So if society were to abandon, if society tried to abandon handwriting altogether, um, it would be very hard to implement. Or if society tried to abandon handwriting altogether, because you're thinking about the future, right? What will happen if people did just make an effort to like completely do away with it? What's the worst thing that can happen? I think a lot of people would have a lot of difficulties, right? So it would be a very chaotic exercise. It would result in a lot of chaos. Maybe that's a bit too out there. Seems a bit weird. I don't know. Again, I'm not very satisfied with it, so maybe I can try something else. If society tried to abandon handwriting, let's say if push typing, okay, if society were to promote typing over handwriting, it's a good, beautiful skill, isn't it? To write something by hand is very personal. We could we could very well lose the human touch. That might be a good thing. There you go. Now that's a much nicer one. I like this. Oh, what's happening with this keyboard? There we go. Now that's much better. Looks nice. I'm really satisfied with how it turned out. There we go. You could very well lose the human touch in communication. Because, you write something, it shows something about your personality, doesn't it? So that's the idea behind this. And now we're going to check the word count. Let's see. Okay, this is 351 words. That's pretty good. It's just 100 words over the minimum word count. Because again, see, the minimum word count is just that, the minimum word count. Very few people are going to have the skill to be able to write a very good, high quality essay in just, 250 to 60 to 75 words. Most people are going to write around 300, 215, and it's a pretty average length, I would say. But remember that writing more does not always mean that you're writing better. Okay, so don't fall into that trap, because that's a very, very common misconception. So I'm just gonna scroll through it. Looks pretty nice. I haven't actually read it through. I should. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty satisfied with how it turned out. This is a very good question. Um, there we go. Introduction, body paragraph 1. Body paragraph 2, and the conclusion. You can pause your screen if you'd like to read. My students will, of course, have access to the documents. You can just, check these. They will be in your student resources folder. Okay, well, that was a lot of fun. All right then, so that's all for today. You'll want to check back on Saturday when I'll be responding to a new speaking test again live, or you can come back next week to see me write another essay. And as always, if you've got any recommendations for a question you want me to write, you can always just drop a comment in the comment section below. All right then, that's all for today. See